Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cult of Cantona, your Irish resource for everything Man United, and coming at you. We took a little bit of a break there for a while because we all needed a well-earned little bit of time off through all of because of all of the dysfunction. But we're back with a bang. I'm joined today by McDonagh. Dec, how's it going? Welcome into the confession box.
Hey, Paul. All good.
Good. Your time in the confession box starts now. Right. We'll jump straight back into it and talk about the hot topics of the last week, I suppose. We keep getting caught with our trousers down with basic things that have been haunting us for the last couple of years: goalkeeping errors, lack of a striker, just kind of basic stuff that are kind of should have been sorted out years ago now at this point. Andre Onana, where are you with him?
I was giving him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. I remember David De Gea's first season, and coming to United, it's a bigger club than wherever you've been before, so there's going to be more pressure. But I've lost patience with him. I mean, he's making such simple errors, and they're costing us. I mean, he is ridiculous. He's cat. I think he needs to be dropped. I personally think he needs to be dropped. I give Bayindir a chance at this stage. I mean, against Lyon, 2 errors. I mean, he talks himself up before the match against Matic and goes out and makes a complete tool of himself. I mean, if you're going to talk crap about another team before a game, at least back it up when you're playing. And what did he do? It cost us 2 goals. I mean, he can't follow the flight of the ball. He can't parry the ball sideways. He has to send it straight to their striker. I mean, it's just too much. And I get that Amorim has to back him publicly, but privately he must be thinking, what am I doing with this dope and goal?
Yeah, I'm sure he's thinking, what have I inherited,
Yeah.
Well, see, and then like what that does is it leads to speculation with the De Gea thing as well, about bringing him back. How would you have David De Gea back?
Ahead of Onana now, 100%. Yeah. Onana was brought in because he can play with his feet, seemingly. The problem is he can't play with his hands, and he's not able to stop the ball, which seems to be a big detriment to a goalkeeper. David De Gea, yes, he did make mistakes, but not as consistently as Onana. Onana, you just can't trust. And I think there was one bit where Harry Maguire could have left the ball go back to Onana, and he rather clear it out of his way. I don't think there's trust between the team and the goalie because they realise he's liable to do anything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, like, the Onana situation is not a new one. This was happening like when he was at Inter, and it was happening when he was at Ajax as well. It's a team sport. You're going to have individual errors. He's human. We get all that. But if you're looking at some of the, there's some basic kind of, even when he was with his goal kicking the other night when he's clearing the ball, it's like he's slicing it. He doesn't look confident. He doesn't look, he's like, even though he's, it was papering over the cracks where he had a couple of good performances. And I think that's more so because our back four is starting to take shape, I think Lenny Earl was playing, or particularly against Lyon the other night. I think he had his best game in the United shirt. And De Ligt looks like a colossus now. He's starting to really look like the centre back that we've been lacking the last few years. And even and it has to be said that there are signs of where things are going, which is exciting. I'm starting to see some symmetry. I'm starting to see some cohesion in the team. But it's the same old thing. We keep conceding and then coming back. So instead of the end of season and in Champions League finals where we score in the last minute where we're 1-0 down, by doing this every single game in a loop where we concede. And I have to say that, like, when the back four are playing well, it makes Onana look good because he has to do less. I think that's the situation with him. And it's not even about like or dislike. It's like there's basic parry stuff that, even at underage level, like, under 10s and under 9s, goalkeepers are taught that when you're parrying it, you parry it out to the left or the right. In that game, he parried that out straight out into the player in front of him, like basic stuff. And that's one individual error. And if there was just one error, he'd probably be forgiven that. But what he did was he robbed United against Lyon of of the right headlines. Xerxes scoring a potential winner in the 88th minute. A player that was very heavily criticised and is starting to regularly play a lot better now. It has to be said. He's starting to look like a Man United player. How do we fix a problem like Onana now going forward, Dec?
And the best way to fix it is putting him on the bench. He's too consistent with his inconsistencies, Yeah. And if your defense don't trust the goalie, that is a huge red flag. That's massive. For all the great keepers we've had, there was a symmetry between them and the defense. They all trusted each other. No one can trust Onana. You can't put in a cross to him. You just can't rely on him in any way. And that's huge for a team like United. You have to have a rock solid foundation. And when there's cracks like Onana in it, if your back four, back three, whatever, don't have confidence in your goalie, it's going to lead to mistakes like we keep seeing. And we should have won that game last night. We should have bet Lyon. The 2 goals were his fault. I thought the defence played well during the game. I was surprised Maguire actually got taken off. I was scratching my head at that when I thought he had a very good game. Even attacking-wise, Maguire has been brilliant the last few weeks. But what we need to do is, we keep saying we want to get consistent results. If you take Onana out of it, we have more of a chance. When Bayindir has played, he's actually looked well. He's looked more composed than Onana, and I think Onana just needs to be dropped. Definitely tomorrow, 100% for next Thursday, because it's a must-win for us. The Europa League is our only way of getting Champions League football, and it's too big a chance to take on Onana because, the supporters don't trust him. His team don't seem to trust him. Amorim's talking great about him, but, geez, I don't know. It's too big for us. Our season has gone to crap. We're nowhere in the league. We're not going to get anywhere in the league this season. Everything relies on the Europa League for us.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, but we have to. I think that there's a very obvious reality check. United are not what they were. We're not what we were, and the only saving grace this season is to win that competition. And getting to the final means nothing to us, And it has to be said that we've a good shout at that now going forward. There's nobody particularly, and especially with Lazio losing as well. Lazio lost 2-0 against Bodo Glimt. You look at those teams, with maybe the exception of Spurs, but Spurs would bottle it in the final anyway because that's what they do. You'd have to say that it's looking likely that we would go on and win that competition without any arrogance. But it's our level as well. You'd say that if there was any team there, with any sort of profile or consistency, we're the best of the bad teams, is what I'd say. So we should go on and win that. And the only thing that I can see us preventing that happening is if we have an unforced error in a match like that, and Onana's going to do that. Yeah. Bruno's playing out of his skin, like he's keeping us alive. That ball in for Xerxes' header, and just in general, and he seems to be adapting to that new role, that kind of floating number 10 role, and he's not going back and doing the heavy lifting. Ugarte's doing more of that. Casemiro as well is starting to play well, and Casemiro loves a European night out as well, so he always turns up for a European match. But you'd have to say, that the danger is, does he do that famous Jim Leighton thing? Does he drop Jim Leighton?
Yeah, I think because there's so much riding on the Europa League, he's going to have to make a decision, and a hard decision, and drop him, because this is our season. Next Thursday, we have a chance of getting into the Europa League semi-final, and everything rides on this. If we win that, we get Champions League football. If we win that Europa League final, we get Champions League football. That's all he should be concentrating on. There's no point even looking at the league now. What, we could probably maybe finish 10th. It's not going to do anything for us. It's not going to bring in any finance. You get into Champions League football, you're looking at millions. So I mean, that's where we need to be in regards to getting new players in, because let's be honest, we probably need a new goalie. We definitely need a striker. We're toothless up front. And it pains me to say it, but Rasmus just is not doing it. As a young fella, I think there's too much pressure on him at a club the size of United. And with the pressure, he seems to have a touch of the donkey in Shrek. He can't hold the ball up. Someone told me he was fast, but when he gets the ball, he doesn't look like he's fast. He's meant to be. I mean, he's meant
Look,
to be.
he has some serious performance anxiety, doesn't he? He's like,
Yeah,
if anything, I think he cares too much. I mean, that's he gets analysis paralysis. So
yeah,
when he gets the ball, he's second guessing himself immediately instead of acting on instinct, which is killing me to watch him, because like we've seen patches of what he's capable of, and I don't know whether it's a kind of a sports psychologist thing where it's like there's the logic of in performance and stuff, because I'm an actor as well. When I care less, I perform better.
yeah,
So that kind of logic of him just going, look, whatever happens will happen. And look, he started him against City. He was a busted flush, nothing happened. He started him again in this big game, and nothing happened. You'd have to say that he has to be dropped now.
Well, when you see Xerxes come on and do more in his 20-minute cameo than Highland has done in the first 65, 70 minutes, I mean, Xerxes looks like he can put in a shift, whereas Rasmus looks like he's devoid of confidence and doesn't know what to do. Even the chance he got against Lyon, I mean, he scuffed it. I mean, it was it was brutal,
He
so
flipped it completely. Yeah.
and he's only a young lad, so I mean, I think the pressure leading the line for Man United has taken his toll on him. So I mean, take that pressure off him. Leave him on the bench. He can't, his performances don't merit him start for the team. They honestly don't. I would put on Cheeto before him. Give the young lad a chance.
Yeah, I mean, he can obviously start in the league, but we didn't register him for. I think that's ultimately the season's biggest mistake, is that they didn't register Cheeto, and then you're looking at the bench, and there's like 5 or 6 names on that bench that were registered, and it's shocking.
Yeah,
Like players that you barely know that were in from the 18s and the underage setup, and you're like, how on earth did they not? Like, obviously, these ongoing problems with strikers have been going on for 6 months, 8 months. This is not a new thing. So how on earth that slipped through? That's incredible mismanagement. Like not to give Amorim, to criticize him about it, but you'd have to say that there's a whole team around him that should have known that. This guy's like, it's even look at the under 18s, the young guy who scored like 5 or 6 goals or something in that 13-1 win against Leeds last week, and you're looking at that going, why are people not aware of the progression into these players progressing into the teams? That's where it's going, next year and the year after. Just getting back to Rasmus very quickly. It's the law of the jungle, If he's not doing his job, he's going to be picked off,
yeah,
we have to be ruthless like that, and that's what kills me as well, because everybody clearly loves the Umfla, and he's a very, very, by all accounts, a lovely man, young man. But the reality is that if he doesn't do the job, and if he doesn't score for the rest, if he doesn't start scoring a goal a game or goal every other game between now and the end of the season, I think he has to go, and I say that encouragingly as well, because he needs to find his level if he can't do that, because it's just like anything else with elite sports or elite, elite. If you're elite in business, or it's that kind of top 10%. What's the difference between good and great is people that have that elitism in that top 10%. If Rasmus doesn't have that, we need to get someone in. And this is the same thing I've been barking on about for the last year. We haven't had a striker. We missed out on Harry Kane. If we miss out on Gorkias, again, we're going to have the same, soft cock problems next season again, where we underperform and we're not putting the goal in the back of the net. We cannot keep relying on Bruno Fernandes. We just can't, jumping up and saving the day. And we don't have a Scott McTominay who'd score a winner in the last minute saving graces like we had before. So if we miss out on Gorky, and I said this because when I did the individual podcast the other day, just talk about Liam Delap, I'm not convinced by him either. I mean, he did very well in the league this season, but as you know, being top dog in an average team and then coming to Man United, that's exactly what's happened with the two strikers we've bought. So we'll be repeating the same problem again. Then when he doesn't start, when he's not scoring like a Evan Ferguson or or Rasmus Højlund, we just need to go down the tried and tested route. I said this the other day on our chat group. You have Lewandowski, 36, still scoring a goal a game for every second game. What say we go in for him for a year?
Well, we're crying out for a proven striker. What they've done is they've gone for youth and unproven talent, and they've spent massive amounts of money, which is just ridiculous. It makes no sense. Every Manchester United supporter has known we needed a striker. So if we know it, how can the people at the club not know it? Mm-hmm. Our goal difference is woeful. And as you say, we're dependent on Bruno. People get on the back of Bruno, which is crazy to me, because without him, we'd be down in the bottom three, I think. He saved us in so many games. Between goals, assists, and everything, he's top ranked. Without Bruno, we'd be in serious trouble. But, it's the mismanagement of the club. They're trying to save money left, right, and centre, and they're not bringing in what we need on the pitch. And on the pitch, we need someone that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. As you said, we missed out on Harry Kane. That was criminal. I think that was a joke. Spurs mightn't have sold him to us. But, if you throw the money at them, at least we would have had a chance to get him, Harry Kane or Rasmus, that's a no-brainer,
It's like pride is a sin, and having the pride of not signing Harry Kane is punishing us. It's not just punishing us this season; it's punishing us clearly last season as well, or has done. And then you look at next season again. Are we going to do the same thing again? Why can't we just go in and get the obvious choice? It's shockingly poor bad for business. But I'm going to change tack slightly and talk about it. I was watching a video with our pal Eric Cantona. He was at the Man City game last week, and he popped over to FC United of Manchester, and he became an honorary member. And there was a chat with him. We were at last month at the Cantona talk. Thanks so much to Gordon at GM Entertainment for looking after us, by the way. And Eric Cantona, by the way, is coming back to Ireland. He's coming to the Millennium Forum in, I think, November of this year as well. So if you go to GM Entertainment, look for at GM Entertainment, you'll see where you can get tickets for that. But Cantona said during the week, and rightly so, he seems to be really doubling down on the opposing view that we should absolutely not be building a new stadium. We should be redeveloping our stadium. He says, case in point, that Arsenal have completely lost their identity since they moved out of the Emirates. Now, he might have been contradicted with the result that they got against Madrid, but in general terms, he's like, they're soulless. These new stadiums are soulless. You look at Spurs, you look at West Ham when they moved into the Olympic Stadium. he also said that he believes that he believes that if he was a young person now, he wouldn't support Manchester United because he doesn't believe in what they're doing, the management structure, and he believes that it's corporate, despite the fact that it's being spearheaded by a fan, a fan in Jim Ratcliffe. Where's your head with Eric's thinking on all of that?
I actually couldn't believe the poll that Manchester United released saying that so many people wanted a new stadium. I don't think any real fan of Manchester United wants to leave Old Trafford. Old Trafford is our home. And I think I definitely didn't want a new stadium to replace it. I mean, that's where our history is. That's where so many legends have played. That's where I've played. And I just can't get over the fact that they came out with the news. I think it's more Jim Ratcliffe doing it so he can make more money for himself. I think it's nothing more than he's looking at making money for himself by building a new stadium. Yes, it's going to cost a lot of money, but I mean, that if you build 100,000 seater stadium, yeah, they will fill it. They will fill it. I mean, that's not under discussion. But I mean, Old Trafford is the home of Manchester United, and I've been there. I don't know how many times, hundreds of times, and I definitely don't want to see a change of it. I think it's just down to revenue that they want a new stadium. I don't think it's got anything to do with the betterment of the club, the betterment of the team, and I really hope that Old Trafford gets redeveloped and we stay where we are.
Yeah, is it past the point of no return on that? I don't know, but especially with the architect explaining look. One thing that I've said recently, and just for those of you who haven't been listening before, was that when you bring young people to Old Trafford in the build up to the game, there's not an awful lot for the kids to do if they don't do the museum. There's nothing around that area on the Quays, really. I mean, there's hotel football, there's the Blaze, there's the Trafford pub, and then there's a few other bits and pieces and hotel bars and stuff. But there's not a lot. There's not a lot out there. So what I do agree with what they're doing in terms of the infrastructure and creating an environment for a family day out. So I appreciate that, and I can see the value in that, particularly in Manchester in the winter when it'll be covered by this giant tarp. And I get all that, but then you're starting to hear reports of the guy Salt Bay who does the steaks and and stuff, him taking a restaurant on the top of one of the towers, and then you just think that I don't like where this is going already. I like the idea. If you've been to the Amsterdam Arena or the Johan Cruyff Arena, they've done it the right way. You have the stadium, but you have an infrastructure of lots of different bars in Amsterdam, bars, and there's a shopping centre outside, and they've done it the right way. So you can go down for the day, and there's a lot to do, So I admire that and that idea. But if I think primarily the reason why they haven't decided to redevelop the site of Old Trafford is because it would be too expensive for United, or they lose out on too much revenue to be playing somewhere else where they redevelop. So I think that's primarily why they've done that, which is not reason enough to build a new stadium, I don't think. Why else?
And even the plans for the stadium when they were released, I mean, I was looking at it going, this architect has obviously smoked something and like Star Wars, I mean, it looked. I personally thought it looked ridiculous. I mean, they're trying to get away with, the Three Towers or the Trident. No, I mean,
Yeah.
it just didn't make sense to me. I have no problem with them redeveloping around Old Trafford and those plans, but I mean, you have to keep the heart and soul of Manchester United is Old Trafford. I mean, end of. That's it. That's where we all as fans have gone for years. I've been going to Old Trafford since 1983. That was my first game, 1983, and that's our identity. I mean, back in the day, it was a fortress, and that's what we loved, and we need to get that back. I think we'll lose a bit of our identity if we go to some space age friggin' stadium just to add another 30,000 onto the capacity. And I have no doubt that they're only adding on the 30,000 capacity for revenue. Nothing to do with the team, nothing to do with anything. It's just about them making more money to line their pockets. Sir Jim says he's a fan. Any true fan will want Old Trafford kept as our home. I don't believe in him. I don't believe in his idea. I think since he's come into the club, we've had more bad news days than good news days. Everything he seems to be doing is geared to him lining his own pockets. I personally think he's as bad as the Glazers. I just have no interest in what he says. I don't believe in his vision for the club, because his vision for the club is him making money, nothing to do with what's on the pitch.
Yeah, fundamentally, I don't think anything has changed. I mean, at the match, the two Glazers were at the match in France with Jim, and it says a lot that they can't be arsed to get over properly to Old Trafford because the reception they'll receive, but yet they'll come out and see us on the sly like that, like they did in France. Fundamentally, I think the stadium idea, if it was a redevelopment, I think would be good. But I think based on what I'm seeing and the lack of revenue that moving out of Old Trafford for a year, like the gap in return of revenue, they can't stand to take the hit on. So I think that's ultimately why they decided to go the other way with it. I mean, the Bernabeu, they did it the right way. Barcelona are doing it the right way. They're deemed to be the two other biggest clubs in the world. Why do we need a new build? I found even going to the Aviva over the years that number one, Lansdowne did need it did need obviously redevelopment and modernising, but like the atmosphere is very different, I find, in the Aviva, especially when it falls over the wall. And I think that when new designs they can be problematic, and I think that we need to seriously address this going forward. And the other thing that Eric said, and I think he's still a bit bitter because when we were at the chat there last month or whatever, he said that he was obviously very disappointed with the way that they handled the approach talking to him about whatever role they were considering talking to him. They reached out to him, and then he said, if you remember that night, he said that he made himself available, and he said he'd clear his schedule for the next 8 months, a year, and not take any film roles or and concentrate on his role at United. And it was set up for a conversation, and then they summoned Eric to another part of the world to come and meet them. It's not what you would do, I don't think, and he seems to have taken that very personally, and he seems to be he has a bit of a vendetta now against the owners as a result.
Well, he made the point that when Sir Alex wanted a player, Sir Alex went to the player. Mm-hmm. He said, I remember him saying it on the night in Killarney, that he made himself available. Sir Jim then summons them to his house in France. And Eric thought, well, if you want me, you come look for me. You don't give me an address and tell me to go there. I mean, you could see Eric's love for the club, and he spoke about it as a family. And he says that Sir Jim has destroyed the family atmosphere in Old Trafford with redundancies, with cutting people's bonuses. I mean, you can see his disappointment in what's happening at the club these days. And I think that's why you're seeing the backlash online now from Eric, because Eric can see what your man is doing to the club. And Sir Jim is doing more damage to the club than we want to see. I have no faith in him. I have no faith that he'll improve the club. Him and the Glazers are just there for revenue purposes.
Yeah, it's troublesome. It's concerning, because what will happen is we'll potentially win a trophy this season. We'll be back in the Champions League, and then all will be rosy in the garden again for another 6 months. But fundamentally, I think the problem is the Glazers. It's because they're running it like an American franchise. And there's always been a disconnect because of that. And
Yeah.
I think the only way when things stabilize, the only way things will stabilize is when they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think Sir Jim having 100% ownership would help us either. I think he'd just be another Glazer, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's a tricky one. Yeah, I don't know. So I suppose another quick talking point just before we wrap up would be to talk about the Marcus Rashford situation and in general about players when they move on or when they've been going out on loan. I mean, and case in point, three players in particular: Jadon Sancho, Anthony at Betis, and now Marcus at Aston Villa. It's not always the case when a player goes away that they play better, but in certain cases it is. I mean, I'm talking about Anthony Martial. When he moved on, he didn't set the world on fire. I believe he's playing a bit better now, but when he went to Betis on loan, he didn't do great. And now we have Sancho, who had a couple of good months, but now he's up to his old tricks. And now Anthony, who I think why things are going a little bit better for him is that he has an extra second or two on the ball, really. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the difference. Because, he does the Ian Robin thing where he gets the ball, beats a player, cuts in and then shoots. And then sometimes it goes in, sometimes he balloons it. And then you have Marcus Rashford, who is starting to show a little bit. His confidence is back. He's back in the England fold. Tuchel obviously rates him. Do you see a do you see a future rather for any of these players at the club next year? If so, who? And is them playing well good or bad for us?
I don't see a future for any of them at the club. Sancho, if we get rid of him, is probably going to be the best bit of transfer business we could ever do. Getting rid of him, he's cat. He's brutal. Freedom. Yeah, we need freedom from Jadon Sancho. He is unbelievably bad. I mean, the problem is he thinks he's better than he is. Rashford is a hard one because he's a homegrown player. I struggle with the fact that he didn't look arsed at United, and now he's playing good for Villa, and in the Champions League. I don't think there's a way back for him and Amorim. There seems to be a disconnect between the two of them, so I'd expect him to go as well. Anthony, I think we just need rid of him as well. Leave him in Spain. Get whatever we can for him. He's not able for the Premier League. That's my opinion on him. I don't think he's able for the physicality, the quickness of it, and I think that's why he's doing a bit better in Spain. So no, I don't see a future for any of the three of them in Old Trafford.
Yeah, I'm conflicted about Rashford, and I always have been. I think it's better for him to move on, but I think going out on loan. I think ultimately what Rashford was trying to do was to try to generate a move away. I think if Barcelona weren't in such financial dire straits, I think he would have went to Barca.
Yeah,
they fancied him, and I think he would have done better in Spain. He would have had an extra second or two on the ball all the time, and it would have suited him. You look at some of the players at Barca that not were second-rate players by any stretch of the imagination, but you're talking about Rafinha, who wasn't amazing in the Premier League. You're talking about even Yamal. I think in the Premier League would struggle more. Yeah, you mean Yamal, because he wouldn't have as much time with the ball. It'd be closed down very quickly, and so understanding the difference. That's why we do so well in the Europa League, is because we have that extra second on the ball, and that makes all the difference. Rashford, I think, is trying to generate a bigger club's interest, and Jadon Sancho is just making the balls of it in general terms and needs to move on. But ultimately, I think that if they play well, it's better for us in some cases because we'll get obviously more money in the transfers, and that's what we want. But there's a very real chance that all three might be back for pre-season, back training, and yeah, I mean, How do you feel about United? Like 2 days after the end of the season, they're going off playing matches. It's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, but again, this is to generate revenue. I mean, it's nothing to do with the betterment of the team or the club. I mean, they're organising all these tours just to get money in the door. That's not going to help the team.
For what, 10 million?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It mystifies me why they bring a squad of players over to play friendlies like that. Like, especially what we know now in terms of the injuries that people can pick up, even after a long season, theoretically, right? Putting players on a long haul flight,
Yeah.
in terms of picking up injuries and pulling hamstrings and all these type of things, it's not good for them. In terms of what we know now, even about players that commute, this was on the overlap the other day.
Yeah.
Players driving from London to Manchester can pick up injuries from just being static and sitting in one position for 2 hours a day, for 3, 4, 5 days a week. So, the things that we know and we're picking up, it seems to be being blatantly ignored by the club. Like, for 10 million, it's crazy to think that United are doing that to generate 10 million in revenue, considering what the turnover is of that club. It just seems like a crazy thing to do.
And in fairness, Luke Shaw will probably get injured walking up the steps to the plane.
What was it someone said the other day was gas? Shaw got injured when his wallet fell out of his pocket and on his foot, hit his foot.
I'm surprised he didn't get injured shaking hands with the Man City fans or the Man City team. I mean, can I just bring that point up? That was a disgrace at the end of the game. United players going around hugging Man City players, shaking hands. Like, Jesus Christ, what is that about? That was the drabbest Manchester derby I've ever seen. And then from to all go around high-fiving each other and everything. There was no blood and thunder. There was no hard tackles. There was nothing in the game. I mean, those players need to take a look at themselves, I mean, it was, as a fan, I thought it was brutal to see and not what I wanted of my team anyway.
Yeah, it was for the first Manchester derby ever. I had people coming to me offering me tickets for it. So that tells you a lot about where, how far both of the teams have fallen this season. Shocking bad. So just looking ahead, just at the fixtures here very quickly before we wrap up. Do you think? I suppose we should just, in many ways, if write off the season and hope to get everything that we want on our Christmas list in the summer, right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you'd like to see come in?
Oshiman has been talked about, but I think his wages are too prohibitive. I think he'd do a job in the Premier League. Not convinced on Delap. I don't think. He's okay where he is, but I don't think he'd survive in United. Yorkie's, ideally he'd come in, but I don't know.
I thought you said Yorkie there. I was like, no, he doesn't play anymore. I don't think.
I'd actually take him ahead of what we have there at the moment. Him ideally, but I mean, if it was up to me and I had the money, I'd throw 100 million at Bayern and say, give us Harry Kane.
Mm-hmm. I think Harry might be tempted. You never know. Stranger things have happened. I just think that, Harry Kane will be what? I mean, Mo Salah is 32, 33?
Yeah.
And players are playing for longer now. Even slightly slower Harry Kane will still score you 20 goals a season. So
100%, yeah.
I think it makes sense to leave our pride at the door and go in for Harry Kane and pay the 100 million, because he'll play on until he's 35, 36. Lednowski is still doing the business. I mean, even Cavani is still playing. He's playing for Boca Juniors, and ironically, so is Ander Herrera and Marcus Rojo. So it begs the question: if you look at Ronaldo playing on now till 40, Messi as well in around that 37, 38. Just players look after themselves more and will play that little bit longer. So we need to. I think get rid of the idea that once they hit the 30 mark, they're on a downward spiral, because it doesn't seem to be the case with some players, you know. So personally, I'd love to see Harry Kane come in, even for a season. I mean, do what we did with Van Persie, you know.
Yeah.
Bring him in, get top four, another cup competition, and just get us competing again. I think that the Amorim revolution will continue to evolve, and I think that we'll be better off next season. But I just hope we don't invest all this time, and then the unpredictability of the owners, then losing faith because we're not top four, or we're not, you know, next season, and getting rid of Amorim when things start to work. Ultimately, what I think is that I think we are playing a little bit better this season, and I can see the changes starting to take shape. So I'm happy about that. However, I just think ultimately, you know, there's the Manchester United gods, when not satisfied, make very weird decisions, and that's what worries me more, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, guys, say again. Glazers out.
Everyone else.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, I think everyone, there's nobody I know who's a Manchester United fan amongst the community, or on any of the channels that I'm pally with, that is in any way satisfied with the Glazers' ownership. So I think we have to try and work together in order to get them out at some point. I don't know how that's going to happen. Maybe they'll just lose interest after some, you know, when they, at some point in the future, but they need to go. Guys, what do you think about some of the talking points today? Comment below. Let us know what you think. Subscribe. Share this show with a friend. Have a listen when you're going out walking the dog or whatever you're doing. You can also support the show in different ways by following us on TikTok. You can follow us on Instagram at the Cult of Cantona. We're also on Facebook, and we have a group as well, a Facebook group. Join us there for a little bit of a chat and a bit of banter now and again on a weekly basis. And if you're feeling really kind, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Cult of Cantona. Buy us a coffee. You might see us out and about or at Old Trafford, and we'll get you a coffee or a pint back. Until next week, when we come back for more dysfunction, I've been Paul Butler Lennox, and thanks again, Dec, for joining us.
Cheers, Reds.
All the best. Glory, glory, Man United, lads.